Hey friends, welcome back to Kiki's Closet. Today's guests rap, they sing, they beatbox. They're Freestyle Love Supreme.
Come on and come and play in Kiki's Closet today.
Please help me welcome my friends, JC Ellis, Anissa Folds, and James Russian. Hey everybody!
Hi, y'all.
Thanks so much for being here today. My first question, what color is your heart today?
Ooh, my heart is purple. I just went and got my favorite juice and went for a walk in the park, and I stood in the sun for a little bit and just was sitting with gratitude because I've been feeling anxious this week. Beep 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 yourself. So I feel centered again.
My heart is iridescent rainbow because I'm super excited to be doing this queer ass POC ass podcast today. I'm all about it. I was super excited to be here.
It's green. I had a pretty intense day yesterday. I had to have a bit of a come to Jesus moment with a friend, and it was really good feeling like I have friends who are willing to sit in that discomfort and just have a really good conversation.
I'm so lucky to be here with the stars of the national tour of the rap improvised mega hit Freestyle Love Supreme. The tour last launched in January. How has it been going so far?
It's been really cool. It's been really fun to see the different audiences and how the different people in different places have reacted. And, we have to take in our information of every place that we go to so we can relate to that audience. We just had an interesting show where our second truck didn't arrive and they didn't have our costumes or our set or our sound system or our keyboards. And what other show can you do that with, We had to do the show. We improvised it. We told the audience what was happening, and people still liked it.
I think the cool thing about our show is that, especially in our world right now, we create the constraints of the reality that's going on inside that theater day by day based on the audience suggestion and based on the art that lies on our hearts in that space. World War III could be budding, hopefully not, but on the outside of the theater. But when we come inside, it's not like a book musical where the message and theme is already set. We truly can take the things that are weighing on the hearts of the current audience members and create a beautiful composition based on that information that we take in. So I think it's a rare chance for us to grant an instant catharsis to the happenings of now.
There's so much joy in storytelling and in that connection and in being able to find moments where you either relate or even moments where you don't relate at all and you're like, oh, hello, new perspective, right? And there's no other show that does that.
With theaters opening up around the country slowly, what has been the most exciting part about being part of some of these homecoming seasons? I know San Francisco, I think it was the first show welcoming theatergoers back.
People are hype. People are so excited, and it's been really cool to just feel the energy. We've missed that energy coming back into theater after everything, and just talking to people after the show and seeing how much this show means to them and how moved they are by what we're doing and how fascinated they are by what we're doing. It's just great to be reminded that theater is medicine and that people need this.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing about what we've been doing too is collaborating with a lot of local artists and learning what we can about each place and learning about the regionalisms there has been really cool and informative for our show even moving forward.
I got to see the show on Broadway, and what I loved so much was how the audience was so intertwined and had such a part of helping tell the story. Coming from a musical theater background, how has it been being in a show where the audience is such an active participant?
Oh, it's different. I would say coming from a musical theater background, our show is different in a lot of ways, even on the back end of thing and in rehearsals. And there's a lot of unlearning that I've been doing and being how we were trained. If you went to a musical theater school and a conservatory program, you're trained to act a certain way. When you can interject. And our show is different. So to be able to do that is crazy. As a Black woman and going to see shows as a kid and seeing how Black people act and as an audience and yelling out and encouraging the people on stage, that's where I come from. So it's kind of normal to me to hear, go KIki, go, dance, sing, niece. That part is really cool to me, that we get to talk to the audience because they're a part of our show and that we invite them in. A lot of people in theater have been trained to sit there and be quiet. So there is that tentativeness of people raising their hands and being like, oh, you want me to talk? Yes, we want you to talk. Please, the floor is yours. You are the last member of Freestyle Love Supreme.
We don't play a character in this show. I mean, we play many characters throughout the show, but we're ourselves in a heightened version. It's exciting because I'm always like, we get to be like our Sasha Fierce every night. You know, like when Beyonce goes out, she's Sasha Fierce. When I go out, I'm Jealous Jay. When Anissa goes out, she's Young Niece. When James goes out, he's Not Dragon. And we have these personas, but they're our superhero. They're our heightened version. And it's neat because the character we're playing is ourselves. And that's just such a rare opportunity that I personally haven't had in music theater. It's always like, take who you are and filter it through this character. And it's like, nah, I'm just gonna be who I am tonight.
It's interesting because musical theater was the middle of my career. Like when I was a kid, I started by doing improv. When I was like 13, I got into a short form team, and that was like my first major like theatrical experience. But at the same time, I was also like starting to work music directing shows. So it's the difference of like, I'm on stage and I'm 3 feet from the audience's face because we're performing in the basement of a church. Or it was also like, oh, the musicians, yeah, they go down under the floor and we don't look at them. But in freestyle, like we're on stage doing the show with them. Like there are definitely times where I feel a little weird because people talk to us after the show and they look at Richard and I and they're like, one of our favorite parts is how much your faces comment on what's going on. And I'm like, I hope that's fine. I'm sure it's fine.
My final question of the day, because the show relies so much on the audience and because you're playing heightened versions of yourself, how have the last 2 years away from theater, when we weren't allowed on stage, through a pandemic, through the Black Lives Matter movement taking center stage, how has that shifted the way you approach this show every night?
During the pandemic that we're still in, I don't know why people are taking off masks now, because shit is still going down. But I mean, it was tough. Like I really missed theater, but at the same time, in the early days, I was like, okay, so I'm just gonna sit here. I didn't want to do anything. There were a lot of people that were creating art, and I felt that pressure of, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something. And I was like, actually, I think I just need to sit here for a while before I dip my toes in anything creative right now. Let me just take this moment and just be still. Going back into it has been really great. And I think it's just a new sense of being thankful all over again, and just realizing that we are so lucky to be able to do this thing that is so unique and so different and therapy and cathartic, and we're just being ourselves on stage. We are sharing the present moment with the audience, and it allows you to be there and present and still, again, in a different way. With the race issues that have been going on forever, I think that it's been interesting in how we tell our stories, the people of color on stage, and how we've been taking the words from the audience and teaching lessons and telling things from our perspective. And for me, just being less afraid to speak about those things, because I know that there's somebody in the audience that needs to hear it. Like when we were in Seattle, we got the word magic, and it was Richard, myself, and Jay all sitting in the seats, which was a beautiful moment. I did my verse on Black Girl Magic, and we just talked about our community and our people and how much magic is in our blood. And I talked about being in musical theater and dealing with the wig artist not knowing how to deal with my hair, which is something I've dealt with time and time again. And I started to take the blame for it, and I would enter into a wig room for a fitting or something and immediately apologize because, like, I have a lot of hair, it's natural. But it's not my fault that you weren't taught how to deal with black hair, because we're not the default, because you only know how to deal with white people's hair. That is an issue, and it needs to be fixed. And I think that the way that we have been taking a step forward in these conversations over the pandemic, we still have a long ways to go. But the fact that I can speak about that and talk about how I've had white women try to hold a comb to my hair because they don't know how, like, it's very traumatizing. And I was able to tell that story. And when I went out of the stage door, the two little Black girls that were in the audience were crying and saying, you don't know how much we needed to hear that. I have to bring my own makeup anytime I have to do anything. I'm like, listen, this is why I'm here. I want to use my voice to help pave the way for you so you don't have to deal with the same shit that the rest of us have had to deal with. And I feel like that's why I do what I do. And to be reminded of that has been really beautiful.
I was going to stop doing public performance altogether in like April of 2020 and go to veterinary school. And I didn't want to rebuild theater, like, period. Like, I spent the last 10 years professionally and then my training before that, like, giving all I could to this broken machine that's already broke, and like, I don't want to rebuild it. And then I lost my father, and it was like amongst all the George Floyd and just the big racial reckoning that was happening. And so I started being very active and going out and marching and, you know, doing as much as I could there. And then I went back to Ohio, and I was just like being as politically active as I could online and raising as much money as I could. And then simultaneously, Freestyle Love Supreme Academy went virtual. And so I was facilitating there virtually and rapping. And it just became a lot of the focus of all of my energy was on, you know, racial reckoning, was on sexual orientation and trans rights, specifically Black trans rights and people of color trans rights. And so it was a big deal for me. And I realized at some point, I think in the amalgamate of both of those worlds happening, that they don't need to separate. And now I think that beforehand, I would think of a strategic way to interject my personal input on my art in a clever way or in a subtle way, wearing a pin, having a certain thing. But now I just say it. I'm like, no, Black trans lives matter. And they matter right now more than your white life, because your white life is already protected. And I don't care that I said that on a stage with 600 people in a seat. And I don't care if they're white and paid for it, because the truth is the truth and everyone needs to hear it. And if I get canceled on my way up, then hopefully the right amount of people hear what I had to say. Because if I don't, then it's just lip service. And I've always wanted a platform to be able to propel things like that forward. We are so damn lucky to have a show where we can. And so that is, I think, what I take into this new wave of theater. And I don't know how I would ever be able to go back.
You can catch the three of these superstars on the national tour of Freestyle Love Supreme. They have 8 cities left. Thank you so much for joining me here today. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Come on and come and play in Kiki's closet today.